Hey there, and welcome to the show. I am super excited about this guest. I've actually considered inviting Corinne probably about 2 years ago. And since then, the topic has changed dramatically, but I'm still want to start off with everything that you've been doing is still the same. You've just expanded into business, which I love to talk about. So I want to, do you want me to introduce you or you want to introduce yourself? Because I'll
You
do
can
it.
introduce me.
Very
You've known me forever.
yeah. So Corinne and I were actually peers in coach training, and that is where I first met her. And we're in that community together for quite a few years. And she was in the weight loss world, which I am part of that membership. And the last, how long has it been? 2 years, 1 or 2 years, you started moving into business.
18 months ago is when we started.
Yeah. And that came through demand. You responded to that, right? You were
Yes.
so successful. You started training coaches, weight loss coaches. And of course, that's the next step. And so I joined the mastermind. And so I've had more time with Corinne and I'm watching the ins and outs of her business. And the reason that I asked her to come on is because of her direct factualness. Like, it's like, let's just get to what's really going on behind the scenes. And I knew she would be the perfect person as the first guest. Corinne, when did you start your business? Like your actual first $5 for weight loss?
Well, it was almost $5. It was only 20 I was charging for my coaching for a month of coaching. It was back in 2007.
2007. So that is what? Over, is it 30?
Oh my gosh. No, that was, let's see, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 20, 16 years ago. I always had, I can't believe I'm 49 years old and I literally just counted on my hands. Still going strong, counting on
You
the
have
hands.
fingers, man.
Right.
So I've heard your story several times, but my guests have not. So just like, what did it take to get to, let's just say, the first $100,000? Because I think that it's glamorized. The money is glamorized. The make a million is glamorized. And, you can be a 7, 8 figure earner. Let's talk about the reality of that and also agree that it is possible.
Yeah, I do think it's possible. Like, it's not that it's impossible, but the problem most people run into, number 1, is patience. It takes a long time to build a business. It takes a lot of courage, and it takes a lot of learning stuff. If you've never built a business, you have such a staunch learning curve, and most people don't have the stomach for all of the learning, all of the trying, all of the doing. So it literally when it was 2007, I'd lost my weight and I didn't know anything about starting a business. I was a college dropout. I went to one whole semester. I had eloped with some dude after I turned 18. He wouldn't work, so I had to drop out of college to be a full-time server to support us. So, and that marriage did not last long. I'm not with that douche anymore. But when I decided that after I'd lost my weight, that I was going to help people, I didn't know anything. I didn't know where you would go get them, especially because, like, there was, like, this hint that you could do things online, and so I was really gonna have to figure it out. So I started just posting in a Weight Watchers message board because I knew that's where people needed to lose weight, and so I would just answer questions all day, every day. And after about 2 or 3 months of starting a daily post called Ask the Trainer, I was getting to where 40 to 50 people a day were asking me questions about losing weight, exercise, things like that. And I started a blog. I still didn't charge any money yet. Like, I'm 2 to 3 months in of literally just getting used to helping people and understanding it. And then after I started my blog and I did it so that I could answer more questions. I was running into a problem, which is fundamental in entrepreneurship. When you're building a business, you work until you find a problem. And when you find a problem, you got to find a solution. My problem was I only had 2.5 hours a day while my son was in Mother's Day out to help these people who wanted my help for free. And I was answering the same questions over and over and over again. And I was like, I don't have time for that. If I'm going to answer every question every day, I've got to figure out a way to make this repeatable. So I started a blog and I would just link them to things I'd already answered if it was something I had done. Those people started signing up to get like notification when a new blog would come out. And I remember one day asking my husband and saying, I've heard about people online that train other people to lose weight and they charge for it. Do you think I should do that? Like this is how long ago it was. It was like, I've heard of these people. Like it was still weird to do things online, you know? And he's like, I don't know, give it a try. So I had to go like look in Yahoo. How do you get paid online? And I had found PayPal. PayPal was kind of new back for most people. And so I sent an email out to all those people and said, I'm if you would like me to help you one on one, I will email you every day and we can talk about your weight loss. I'll help you lose weight. It's $20 a month. And the very first day I sent it out, the very first person who emailed me back, her name happened to be Corinne Wright, which was my maiden name. And I was like, sign from God, here we are. Like, we should be doing this. But I had like 20 or 30 people take me up on it. I did it that way for a little bit, but then I ran into the problem of I'm helping these people every single day in emails, taking a lot of time. We're talking about the same crap. That I didn't know I was starting a membership, but I just told everyone, I'm going to put you into a Yahoo group where we can all see each other's conversations, where you can learn from each other and talk to each other so that you don't see you're alone and it's $20 a month. And that's how I started. I went from 2007 to 2015 only making anywhere from like 15K a year to 30K. I mean, but I treated that business as seriously as I would treat this business that I run today that's 8 figures. I mean, I showed up. I remember staying up all hours of the night to create workbooks for them on my own because of my clients need it. Like I did all the things, everything. And then in 2015, the school we went to, I went and got certified as a life coach because I knew that what I was doing with my people was a lot of helping them with their mindset, but I had like no rhyme or reason behind it. I was just basically talking to them all the time and just trying to help them. But you could think this way. I used to think like that too. And this is how I approached it. That gave me a framework. And it was the first time ever that somebody told me, like, I remember Brooke asking me, I was the only person in the room who had a business. There was 25 of us. And she said, how much money do you want to make this year? And I was like, what? And she was like, how much money do you want to make this year? And I said, I guess whatever I get. Like, I mean, I didn't have any idea that I should set money goals, think about my business strategically, none of that. And she just looked at me and she said, like, I've watched you all week. You have a business here. You could make a lot of money. You just need to know how to do it. And I left there with a fire under my ass. I was like, I'm gonna set a goal. And so when I left, I went home, read some books. I don't even remember what I read, but I started kind of thinking about, well, I should probably learn more about what do you do with a business. And it coincided with my son, who he was autistic. He was in a private Catholic school and he was in the 6th grade and our tuition was like 12,000 a year. They told me he couldn't come back, that they loved him, but they just didn't even feel right taking our money because they knew they couldn't help him, that he was getting behind and he would only get more behind if he stayed in that school, and that we needed to find him a better solution. And so the better solution was $50,000 a year at another school. And we weren't like rolling in no dough. That was going to dramatically alter our life. And I was like, oh no, like I am not going back to being poor. I'd already grown up poor. I was like, we are going to keep our date nights. I like being able to go on a vacation every year. I'm going to make money. And then by the time in 2017, so 2015, I met Brooke, kind of got more serious. I made the 50K. And in 2017, I made 230 something thousand dollars only because I was sitting there thinking about my business more and like learning how to run a business and telling people about it and just kind of restructuring some things.
Can I ask a question here? Because I
Yeah.
think this is such a relevant point is Like, the years that you were charging the $20, you got to the 15,000 and the 30,000 and had normalized it. Like, I actually get paid for I can relate to this so much.
Mhm.
It's almost like an accidental business. And then all
Yeah,
of a sudden you realize, like, wait, I just fell into business. How did, it's like, what do I
yeah.
do now? And I think this part is missing, especially with new coaches. Because like I had to open a brick and mortar. Like my business was something tangible. And that's how business used to be, back in the
Yeah.
day. This was 1997. But they are hearing this, you can make as much as you want, you can do what you want, but they're missing those first few years that you and I had. And I notice when they come in and I'm working with new coaches that they're immediately trying to go to the 150 or like you're saying 250. How can we help someone who's listening to this who actually just doesn't have the awareness? They just walk into the room. I'm going to say it's entitlement because that's kind of like an entitled business owner. Like, I opened a business, I should make money. How could we speak to that? Or how can you speak to that on just getting someone to see that a little bit differently? Like, I was grateful for those few $1,000s. It was better than being in my house with 5 kids and broke as, and I wasn't going back to the welfare office. So that's the other thing. Your driver was so strong. Like,
Yeah,
what?
I think I think for most people, like, you just like, if you're starting your first online business, like, if you're gonna be a coach, you have to be really honest about what you know and what you don't know. Like, you don't just get certified and start telling people and $100,000 comes rolling in the door. It takes a lot of talking. You have to learn so much about how to structure your time. You have to overcome so much, like, I mean, literally, if you want to get clients today, you have to have balls. I mean, you're going to talk to way more people than you're ever going to think you need to just to be able to get a few that will pay you. And so I think, like, in the early stages, it's you have to work really hard. And when I say work hard, I don't mean you got to work thousands of hours, but you can't be allergic to putting in like a solid 40. Like, I watch a lot of the newer coaches who are like, they want to work 3 days a week. They want to do these things. I'm like, good freaking luck. I have an 8-figure business. I'll let you know when I work 3 days a week. Like, it's just never happened. And it's not because I'm refusing to turn things over. It's not because of all that stuff. It is like business has demands. But it's a funny story that happened recently with a peer of mine. What I watch a lot of business owners do, and it does not matter if you're making $0 or you're making all the dollars. We all think we work all the time. Like, our swan song is, I'm just working all the time. I was like, hey, do a time study. Let's just find out where you're spending all this time. Like, I'm sure we can find all kinds of information. I do it with my own team, I do it with myself. She came back to me and she just laughed and she said, do you know how I was like crying literally in your arms about how I was working all the time? I was clocking 34 working hours a week. I did it for 3 weeks. She said, the other hours, I was stewing, worrying, obsessing. Like, she was like, I didn't realize how little actual work I was doing. And so, like, my thing for all the coaches is always like, you cannot be allergic to actual work in your business. You have to do it. You have to do it when you don't want to. You have to do it when you're tired. You have to do it when you're scared to death. That's the hardest part of entrepreneurship. And that first year or two is ate up with that. Like, it is constantly overcoming yourself. It is constantly doing that. And it feels like you're working all the time. But I do believe that even if it's the first year or two, if you consistently actually put in 40 solid hours a week of working, which means talking to people when you don't want to, the dreaded cold reach outs. Like, I don't know what it is with our coaches, but they're just like, oh, a cold reach out is so sleazy. I'm like, it's not sleazy. It's what's required. It's like, you can't afford to run errands. And that is a cold reach out.
Yeah.
That's just you in the feed as a cold reach out. It's like, now you're going to have to, and you can do it with class. There are ways to do it. But you have to learn how to do all that. And then you're going to have to talk to a lot of people who are going to be like, don't DM me. I'm not interested. To find the few who are going to be like, oh, wow, tell me more about this. So it's just I just think that, like, that first couple of years, it's just a grind. And it's not a grind because you're working 80 hours a week. It's because you're probably putting in some rock solid hours of learning and stuff, but you feel dumb, you feel exposed, you feel vulnerable, you feel rejected, it feels risky, you're scared all the time. That's the grind.
It's a constant call for creativity and failure, like just on rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. What's another idea? What haven't I tried? Maybe I can try it again. Let me say it a different way. And I
And
think
it's highs and
that's
yeah,
they
well, it's
think
like highs and
there's a right
lows.
way. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's highs and lows. It's like I still to this day, like, every time I write a new funnel sequence or a new sales page or something, in my mind, I'm like, when it's done, I'm like, "This is like baby Jesus in the golden diaper. He's blessed this. This is gonna make all the money." Like, I always think it's wonderful until my marketing team comes back and says, "Here's your statistics." And so this I just did this where we just rebuilt an entire funnel email sequence. I went in the opposite direction than what I've done before. And good news is, so there's 11 total. 6 of them are performing way better than what we had. 5 of them suck. Nobody wants it. They won't open it. If they are open it, the click rates are terrible. And I'm like, I thought it was gold. So it's highs and lows. It's like you're so excited one minute, you believe it's going to work. It's all the things. And don't take that away from yourself. But then also, don't be devastated. Like when it doesn't work, it's like I'm always disappointed. I'm like, "Oh my god, I thought that was gonna work. Oh, now I gotta write another one. Blah, 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 blah. I gotta edit this." That's being an entrepreneur. It is like a roller coaster. It is ups and downs, ups and downs. But there's the thrill of it. It's a thrill ride the whole time. If you normalize that it's gonna be full of ups and downs, like, I would like to be the kind of entrepreneur that every time I put something out, I'm excited until the numbers prove me wrong, and if the numbers prove me wrong, I wanna be the kind of entrepreneur who is just like, "That sucks. I really thought that would work. Of course I'm disappointed. I really believed in it, and now I gotta change it, and I'm willing to keep going," and that's when I turn on determination to go up the next hill so I can feel the whoosh when I go over it. I'm like, "Oh my god, it's gonna be great again." Just the way it works.
Great. I have a very direct question. Follow.
Yeah.
Would you have stayed in and had the tenacity without the driver of the $50,000? Like, what do you think from what you were experiencing? How much impact or difference did it have having that? Like, I got to take care of my kid because that's like a survival thing, right? And
Yeah.
I always talk about like how the driver's so important. It keeps you in the game. So I'm curious from your personal experience at that point where it was like, what shifted for you that drove you from a 50 goal to 250 reality?
I think for me, it was before that, my business was just all fun and games. Like, I really enjoyed what I was doing. I was very passionate. I, like, loved what I was doing. Like, $30,000 a year just felt like amazing. When the $50,000 goal came on, I think my determination and seriousness kicked in. It was like before, I just wasn't taking my business seriously. I was just kind of like, "This is great. This is fun. This is all the things." Not poo-poo that. I don't want anybody to hear me to say, like, we can't have fun, but when I decided to start setting goals, there was a sense of determination, a sense of, like, not calm, but it was more of just, like, laser-like focus that turned on, and I had fun too. Like, I enjoyed being someone who was focused. I enjoyed now having a goal. Like, I enjoyed that part. But before, it was so like Barbie dream store. I'm just like, oh my gosh, here I am just getting paid to help people. Isn't that a great? Like, I didn't even think about goals and stuff. But once that piece kicked in, it just, I feel like I grew up real quick. Like, I just was like, this business now has to serve this. So knowing made me study more, made me read books about business. Before that $50,000 goal, every book I ever read was about workouts, muscles. I read all the diet books so I could always stay on top of what was latest in the industry because I didn't want to teach that shit. Like, I wanted to be able to know all of it. I listened to every podcast that had everything to do with like nutrition and stuff like that. Then I switched gears. I was like, if you're gonna have a business, you probably ought to listen to crap about business. We probably ought to start doing this. And so I got educated fast. And when I got educated fast, I grew faster.
I love that Brooke did that for us and so many
Yeah.
others. Like, seriously,
Yes.
it's what was so attractive about like, she was speaking of it from such a great experience, of herself, and she was, like, so sure anyone in the room could do it, like,
Oh, yeah.
and I love that impact that she led us by, that led, what I'm saying, that opened
Yeah.
up the door because that's what she
Yeah.
did. She, like, peeled the foil back, and it's like,
One of the things that she says that I think is so misunderstood because a lot of people don't like it when us entrepreneurs who have had success say, we really do believe anyone can do it. Because I do believe anyone can do it. She's nuanced it that makes all the difference in the world. There's a lot of people who can, there's just most people who won't.
right.
Like those of us that I think become successful are the ones that take the slings and the arrows and the down days, and it's your tolerance level for the not fun parts is what will set you apart. There's plenty of good times in business, but it's just like anything in life. I use like here's an example I use in my weight loss side of the business. If you've ever really been hurt by someone in your life, you will spend the rest of your life guarding against being hurt like that. Even if you've had thousands of good interactions with people, people who've loved you, people who've changed your life for the better and stuff, but you will remember the one person who hurt you and you will build a wall to have that never happen again. And walls keep out the good people too. And it's very similar in business. It's like you will have plenty of good times in your entrepreneurial life. But in the very beginning, it feels almost traumatic because you're having to learn, you're having to feel dumb half the time. So much of your stuff won't work. So many people will doubt you, and they'll doubt you for good reason. They'll be like, "But you've never done anything like this. You have a good job. Why would you give up?" Like, they just are afraid for you. And when that happens, we spend a lot of our entrepreneurial life guarding against feeling bad when there's so much good that could also come in. So you have to be able to, like, overcome some of that stuff.
Yeah, especially if you have unresolved rejection trauma. Like, if
Yeah.
that here in the body, it will get pinged, it will get triggered
Yes.
multiple times, and I actually think that's one of the secrets of my success is the difference between my rejection and someone else's rejection is I've grown a muscle to tolerate it
Yeah.
and reframe it in a way that I can actually have it work for me. And
Oh,
I
yeah.
because that's the thing that and the shame of the rejection, oh, everyone's going to know that I was rejected, were so strong that it would put me into mental paralysis. And I couldn't take the action. I couldn't think. I wasn't creative because I was in self-protection mode, right? Like what you're saying. I love that. I had a question for you that as you were talking last time that brought up one of the questions, which was what's one thing that keeps showing up regardless how successful you are and it keeps surprising you? Like you keep noticing it and it keeps surprising you. Kind of like what you were just saying, like about the emails and like, I've got it figured out. I've got like, this is going to do it. And then you're like, man, like I'm surprised. It actually doesn't work every time. Is there anything that continues to show up since the beginning?
There's definitely stuff that I will say, I don't think I'm surprised any of it shows up anymore, only because I've had a really good coach for 6 years now, and we coached on this, like, about 2 to 3 years ago on, like, this is just your crap. Like, it's always gonna come back. I've made peace with there are certain insecurities, certain frustrations, certain things that are just baked into my DNA. Like, so I'm no longer surprised by it. But, what does come up a lot for me is the rejection. I was severely bullied, abandoned as a child, all kinds of stuff. So when I think people don't approve of me, it's I panic over it. Like, the first, like, thing I just know when it happens, like, I can feel myself obsessing and worrying. I've gotten good at take no action. That has been my agreement with myself that until I don't feel better about it, but when I'm clear-headed about it. I used to things would happen, like, in my membership, like, I've had just all these points in my business where big rejection has happened, like, big events and stuff, and I would freak out and change things or do things and then create, like, a whole 'nother mess. It took me several times of realizing before you solve a problem, think about the problems you're about to create. Sometimes those problems are worth creating, but more times than not, they're not. That, you don't wanna solve a problem and create worse problems. So I did that a few times and had to stop doing that. Now it's more, when like, I recently had to let an employee go, and I've not had a lot of experience in letting people go. Like, we eh, because I don't like having to do stuff like that, we have a very strong hiring program. Like, most people always say when they come through our hiring, they're like, "This is the staunchest hiring process I've ever been in." You go through 6 to 7 interviews before you even get to me. Like, we are just diehard about it.
To
Well,
avoid the discomfort of you having.
and we have, 2 reasons. Number we call it the bozo rule, which is everybody who has ever had a job always worked with that one person that we call the bozo. They made life miserable for everyone. Everybody they're like, they don't do their job. Every day you're just like, they get special treatment, or you don't understand why they don't get fired. They jack shit up, all that stuff. And so we call it the bozo rule. The bozo rule is we don't hire bozos. And so, because it's the most detrimental thing you can do to a team. And if you want a well-oiled team, you good A players do not want to be around bozos. They will go find a place where they can be an A player because they won't work in a company where there's like that stuff going on. But the other thing is I don't like firing people. I hate it. I take people's livelihood really seriously. And I know the emotional bull I go through to let someone go. It's very emotionally hard for me. And so one of the reasons why we have such a staunch policy is because I do not want to put myself in the position to have to let people go. It happens, but it doesn't happen often because I'm not just letting people come into my company who can fog a mirror, who can just solve a problem we have right now. Like, I don't hire that way. I'm like, I will do the job until we can find the right person for the job. We don't have a copywriter right now. Our copywriter, actually, she had to leave. And it's so hard to find a good one that I told my team, I don't care how long it takes us. It could take us a year. I will write every ounce of copy in this business before I will hire someone who can't write for us or who can half do the job. It's not worth it.
I'm with.
So I had to let somebody go recently, anguished. And I mean, it took me 2 to 3 months of coaching just to get the nerve to do it. This person needed to go. It was very hard on me. We did a lot for her. We really took care of her because I don't like letting people go. I feel like, it's just the right thing to do, but it's not that it surprises me, but that's my thing that always comes back.
Mm.
Like, it took a long time for me to get my mind right to where I was like, I am disappointed this didn't work out. I am upset that I have to do this and that's okay. But my job is to not sit and keep someone around and hurt my business because I don't wanna hurt. So I'm very willing to hurt over this because this is a decision, like, my business is like another team member, and it's hurting right now, and I gotta solve it for her. So that's probably the biggest one, is just rejection. Anytime, like, for me, it was so scary because I thought, "She's gonna not like me. She's gonna think I'm
Right.
a-hole," and then maybe she'll tell all these people and stuff, and there was such trauma for me around. I mean, I lost sleep and cried and went through all of it until I could work myself into a place where I felt emotionally safe, that I was doing everything I could. I was still gonna feel upset, but I also 100% believed that while it was painful, it was still worth it.
Mhm.
It was still needed.
What's coming up with me as I listen, I'm wondering, this is something else we have in common. we both had a childhood of rejection. And so we tend to be really sensitive to that wound. And I'm wondering if that's why it's so hard to disappoint someone else. And we both had I'll call it a near death experience, but we both decided to eject and didn't go. Got
Yeah.
thrown back down. Um, and so I'm just curious because as you're talking, all of that for me, I'm like, yep, we just gonna, I was telling someone yesterday, I was like, we just want in house. We just want people who are all the way in and part of the team. I don't want to experience that again. And I'm wondering if it's just like the empathy and the emotion that's inside of us from that, that just makes us a little more sensitive to it. Cause some owners, they just cut and go.
Yeah,
They don't spend all these days working through that stuff and,
I think 100% that's where mine comes from. I think it's just this fear of being ostracized, this fear of losing everything. I also grew up really poor, so a lot of times my brain immediately goes to whenever I'm making a big decision in my business, like, it just wants to think I'm gonna lose everything. Like it could happen overnight, and that's, like, the stuff that comes back for me, but I've learned that is the stuff that comes back for me. I think because I understand where this comes from and why it happens, I love what you said earlier. It's like I've built a muscle for it. I'm stronger for it. It never feels good, but my ability to tolerate all of that and understand it carries me through it.
Mhm.
I don't think it's ever gonna go away, and I'm okay with that. Like, I don't sit around and be like, "It's never going away, womp, womp, womp." It's more like, I don't think it's ever gonna go away, and to me, that's just reality. So, once I make it reality, I'm able to take control and authority. Like, I'm able to, like, now say, like, "If it's never gonna go away, so what we gonna do now?" Like, rather than always wishing it would go away, being like, "Oh my god, it's back," like it's a big problem. It's like, "Yeah, of course it's back, and it's okay. We're gonna
It is a
survive."
part of me. It is in me. It is a
Yeah.
part of me. And the reason I'm asking that question is because we have a lot of new business owners that kind of think it's personal and it's just them. And I'm like, no, we've got like a 8-figure business owner saying this, it's still there.
Yep.
The
I
number,
don't
it
go
doesn't
ahead.
matter how much, well, I'm just saying, it doesn't matter how big, how much, when it's
No.
there, it's there. And when we can see it and understand it, then it's like, all right, you can just come along. Like that's just going to be there. But for me, it keeps surprising me. Like, I keep thinking I got it, like and I'm like, "Dang it, it's slipped up. It's wearing a costume. It snuck in through the back door."
Yeah, I think that must be the difference between us because it doesn't surprise me anymore. I'm just like, "Oh, yeah, here we go again. This is kinda what I do." But I will just tell all of you, I think whatever your core wounds are, like, wherever those fractures and ruptures are for you, where it's like, this is that thing, like, I often will feel not good enough. Like, I don't even believe that I'm not good enough anymore, but I swear, if something happens, it's like, "Oh, yeah, it's because 'cause you're not smart enough." It's like, "Oh, yeah, because you didn't work hard enough." Like, it just kinda comes in. I think it's just one of those things we have to learn how to see it, embrace it, know what we're gonna do when we experience it, not get so caught up in it. That's the hard part is when you rail against it or you don't want it to be there. It would be like saying, "I'm so upset I woke up and my right arm was here again. I really thought my right arm was gonna go away overnight." It's like, no, like if some things, like I just think all of us, especially I've been kind of studying a lot of the inner child wounds and all that kind of stuff. Like, I see these different patterns in me, and as I get bigger, those trauma responses just get bigger. Like, the way I think about it is when I only had a $200,000 business that I could lose, my husband still had a career. We weren't like, it was not gonna devastate us. Now, anytime something threatens my safety and stuff, my mother, my brother, my niece, my son, myself, and my husband all work for my company. So not only do we have like livelihood stuff, I've got 5 people in my family that if I screw up, they're screwed. And that's not even talking about my team that I love. Like I've got 20 more of them. And so like as I get bigger, I make peace with this idea. It's like I think you want to be someone that takes this real seriously. When your brain's flipping out, all that's really saying is you really love these people enough to worry the crap out of yourself about it. Sometimes that gives me like, all right, like I've got the shoulders for this. I will spend a few days worrying and anxieting and stuff. And I also know how to tell myself, this is one of those things, you've seen it so many times. 2 weeks from now, the whole narrative's changed. Nobody's thinking about it. Attention spans are too short these days. Like a lot of that, like rejection and all that kind of stuff. I'm just like, everything moves so fast paced now. You're only going to feel miserable for a little bit. Can you hang on? I tell myself that all the time. Like, I
Mhm.
gotta hang on.
I tell myself that all the time.
Yeah.
This is only for a moment. This is only
Yeah.
for a moment. Like, and man, that has really helped me get through some things. So, guys, multi-million dollar earner, business owner with how many followers do you have, Corinne? Like,
Oh my
listen to
God.
the words she's saying, and we're here crying. Not we, but like when I hear it, I know you hear it too from the business community or even the pounds, right? Looking at it, and it's like such a big deal, but it's like, so what? It will remain a big deal. So yes, it's valid. It's a big deal, and it's going to remain a big deal. Are you going to let that stop you? Because
No.
we're talking to someone who might have 30 people in their email list
Right.
and thinking it's so personal, but we're here to say how, I mean, you've got gobs of followers. You got 13,000 people in your weight loss membership. And
Yeah.
these words are still coming out her mouth.
It just like, just don't be surprised by your stuff. Like, this is why I think it's really important for us always to get, like if you're going to be a business owner, be getting coached because there's 2 things that will stop you as a business owner. One will just be your lack of knowledge on how to do things, and that's easy to solve. Like, we can go and short like, there are books and podcasts, there are courses, there are, like, plenty of information on the internet now about how to fill in your skill gap. The other will be your thought gap. It will be everything that's going on between those 6 inches, and that is always gotta be the topmost priority. I want people to keep taking action. If you've ever listened to me, I do not want coaches sitting around coaching themselves all day long and just getting coaching and calling that work. That's not work. Get your coaching first thing in the morning out of the way. Do your self coaching. Get coached, whatever you need to do, but work the rest of the day. Work with your emotions. Work with your crappy mindset and stuff. But don't stop working because of crappy mindset. Work on that while you keep working. Because this is the nice thing about I think that happens when you're an entrepreneur who can work with your crappy mindset while you work on it is you're not only massaging all of that and opening up space to think differently, you're also creating a lot of different facts for your life. Every time you solve something in your business, like if you're a earlier entrepreneur, that first email sequence where you gotta figure out is it an automation or a campaign, and what's a trigger, and how do I get this thing to talk to this thing? That first time is excruciating, and that's the only time it will be excruciating. Every single time after that gets easier. So the first time is the most amount of dumb you'll ever feel. It's the most amount of unskilled, hopeless, I'll never be able to do it that you'll ever feel with that thing. But if you keep taking action while you have all of it, when you solve it, you'll be like, oh, I can figure things out. And now you're going to have that piece to also be with all the other thoughts that you're having. So when you're taking action while working on your mindset, at least you're creating new facts for yourself to think about. And I think that's so important at any stage in business. I tell myself that all the time. I don't like something in my business. Go change it, give myself another circumstance to think about. If I don't want to have to do all the thought work on it, then go out there and make something happen so that I can have easier thoughts.
We think that we're gonna feel like doing it, but the feeling follows the action. Like that's it's kind of like trying to get out of scarcity, right? It's like you've got to invest to learn how to get out of it. And it's like, well, that's stupid. Like,
Yeah.
here's the problem. I have two questions. Do you have time?
Yeah.
I know you have a live event going on coming up. So I'm simplified these. I had 12. Like I just wanted to hang out with you all day. The first of the two, the difference between, I think this is like such a pivotal point for business owners, entrepreneurs, between the solopreneur and the deciding to have a company. You could make plenty of profit just doing your membership, just doing coaching, because we know like that it's just profitable. You don't have a lot of overhead,
Yeah.
but you had to decide, I'm going to bring on a team. I'm going to bring on all of this. Like I'm in it right now. So it's the difference between this is enough or this is good. Like, and holy shit, what did I just get into?
Yeah, I think you just have to decide what like the kind of person you are. I'm a natural born leader. Like I came out of the womb bossing my mother around. I'm just like, you will not be the mom. I think I will be the mom. So for me, I wanted to grow a company. Like it just felt like it was very aligned for me. It just felt like it was in my DNA. I wanted a bigger company and I like being in leadership roles.
Mhm.
It's just fun for me. So I think like I've often thought like sometimes when there's a lot of, like when you're doing a lot of the HR and you're doing so much of the meetings and stuff, there are some days I'm just like, oh my God, I should take this all down to the studs and just make like 3 or 4. I think at this point I could run a $3 or $4 million company with about a 60% profit level with me and just my husband and maybe an assistant. Like, I know enough about all of it to be able to do that. Now, that's only because I've done it for so long and know so much crap and I could do it. I just don't want that.
Mhm.
Like, that's not what I want. But I just think, like, when people are like, when you're kinda deciding like, the biggest thing is that when you're gonna become a company, you've got to decide how much do you like leading people, managing people, like, it's like you're the visionary, but you're, like, responsible for making sure that other people can execute your vision. There's so much of that that comes in with the company side of it. It's like you're not just sitting back and being an ideator all day long. Like, it is my job to ideate, but it's also my job to, go to department meetings, go and sit with people, listen for how they're doing things, teach them thought strategy, teach them how to do the things, make a lot of decisions. Like, it is you have to want that. You also have to want to be responsible for other people's livelihoods. Not everybody wants to do that.
And
And
I think it's important to know that that's gonna be necessary when you get to a certain dollar amount or a certain clientele number of clients, right? Like I don't know that they know that.
yeah,
When they're
I
just like, "My goal is $5,000,000, like, I'm gonna do what I'm doing 5,000,000 times," and it's, like, so different, like, that that journey to 100,000 is a beast, but to 1,000,000 is it's just a whole different beast that
yeah,
involves so many more people and being so much more aware.
yeah. It's like you have to be really good at setting expectations, knowing how not only knowing how to set expectations, knowing how to set the right expectations, and you have to know how to hold people accountable to them. You don't just hire people and they're just like glorious and just do things all day. Your team is only as good as your ability to lead them. If
That
you can't
development process then.
Yeah, it's a lot of that, like, you've gotta be a people developer, and you have to gotta want to do that because you're also gonna have a job the whole time. Like, I joke with my team all the time, it's like, about 50% of the time, I'm the boss, and 50% of the time, I'm their employee. They're bringing to me the things like, "This is where we need your expertise on. We need copy for this. We need to know, how are you gonna teach this?" Like, all these things. I'm constantly fulfilling their stuff too, so you still have to work, and if you like, I still have to coach, I still have to network, I still have to, do
Help.
all the things.
Oh
Yeah,
my
I'm speaking at an event this weekend, and guess whose butt's gotta wake up every morning? Because I got shit to do every morning for about 2 hours to keep things rolling because even though I'm doing an event, there are projects that have deadlines to make sure that we can launch in January, to make sure that we can do, like, these things. It's like and they need my speaking notes. Like, these things just happen in, like, business. So, like, if you're gonna run a company, you're not gonna be absolved from being a worker. I have just never seen a real CEO of a truly successful company not say, "Oh, I'm in the grind with them." And when you're in the grind with your team, you see so much of your organization and you really know how to clean up your organization. Like one of the things that's going on in mine right now is I dedicated the 4th quarter to marketing. And I was like, all right, I am going to be your 12th man. So I'm going to work with y'all. I'm going to approve everything. I'm going to be at every meeting you have. But now our marketing director runs all of it. And I'm like, but I'm coming. And I have learned so much and been able to help them so much faster because I'm like, assign me, assign me this funnel. I will write it from opt in, sales page, emails. I will write it all the way down. And when I had to be a team member for them and do it, I quickly saw their inefficiencies, where they have communication issues, where we aren't storing things in the right place, where we have opportunities to clean, like they obviously don't know how to do these things. You will be doing that as a CEO. One of the best books I ever read was something like The Lazy CEO, something about being a lazy CEO. And the thing that stood out to me was he talked about good CEOs know when to step back and run the organization, and they know when to step in and get laser focused on the minutia. It's a constant pulling back, looking at things, finding the next thing, zoning in. You're always going in and you're going out. And that's what I've been doing this year. And I've like it's really cleaned up a lot. I feel like next year we're really set to do some serious growth because I spent this year working in the trenches with my team all year long to kind of figure out what is happening inside of our organization. Because when I come in as a brand new set of eyes with my big vision, because no one's ever going to love your business like you do as a CEO. When I come in with that, I see things through a whole new light that they will never be able to see.
Yeah, because we see inside of every little crack and reason. It took me a lot of years to realize that they actually don't see what I see, like, as the visionaries, as but I thought they did, so I kept trying to hire me, I kept trying to replicate me, and finally, I heard, like, "You're not hiring another CEO, you're not hiring another owner, you're not." I was like, "Oh, how
Yeah.
many years did I spend trying to do this?"
Mhm.
When will you know that you made it? I'm sure there was a point before where you already set that but yeah?
That's such an interesting question. I feel like, gosh, I don't know. Like every time the goal line changes for me, I will say this. I feel like I've already made it in life. Like I feel like if I checked out today, I feel rock solid. I have a great family. I have a great marriage. I've built a business. I've taken care of myself. Like I could honestly say I feel like I've already made it in terms of like just siloed off into business. Probably when I mean, my husband and I joke about this all the time. We don't see ourselves ever retiring. We're the kind of people that would probably work until the day we die. We both love working. We always have. We both had jobs before it was legal. I mean, we just, and we both love it. So it's such an interesting question. I mean, I feel like I've made it in life, but I feel like in business, I will always wanna be growing and trying to do the next thing, whether it's always gonna be this. Like, we own a restaurant. My husband and I joke around all the time about, like, maybe one day we don't have memberships and stuff. We transition into just owning different types of restaurants we like or different types of things we like. We don't know. It's hard for me to call the shot because when I look back at the last, just even, like, 10 years, I would have never predicted this is where I would be, and so when I think about the next 10 years, I definitely wanna keep growing these 2, but I'm also open for a plot twist at
I'm gonna be around watching. So someone asked me this recently. It's like, are you building your business for legacy or for value? Like, is it like, are you building something that you want to put into the world that someone else can take, or are you building this for legacy? Like, I was like, wow, I never really thought about that. Am I building it for legacy for myself, for something that I bring into the world or birth into the world, or something that I build up and like sell it off and go run restaurants?
so I'm not building to sell. Like, that is a decision my husband and I made a long time ago. Like, I know that a lot of people do wanna do that. I have no desire to sell my business. I think it's more the legacy thing. I joke around with my members all the time. I used to always say, like, on my grave, I wanted them to put on there, "She put Weight Watchers in the dirt." That was what I wanted on my tombstone, of all the things, you know?
In the diet traumas, yes, for
If
sure.
I ever decided to sell it, it wouldn't be because I got such a great offer. It wouldn't be like I'm not structuring it to sell or anything like that. It would be literally something something scratched our itch. My husband and I decided we wanted to do something else or whatever. And I will be honest, it would be so when we bought our restaurant, we bought it one, it was our date night spot. And we live in a small town and it was running into the ground. And we knew that unless we bought it, they needed capital investment, they needed these things that we wouldn't have a date night spot. And so we had 30 plus years of restaurant experience between the two of us. So it wasn't like we were just like, willy-nilly on this. We knew we could run a good restaurant. We bought it because the staff was wonderful. It was one of the few restaurants where the average employee has worked there over 5 years, even though they were treated awfully. And we bought it because of them. And these are people that are gonna be career restaurant workers. And so when we bought it, one of the promises we made to us and we talked to some of the staff is, "We wanna turn it around. We wanna, in 3 to 5 years, we wanna sell it to y'all. Like, that's what we wanna do." And we want to teach you everything we can about running a restaurant where this can be something that will change y'all's lives. It will never change our lives.
Mhm.
No BS business, no BS weight loss is our life changer. This for us is fun. This is what he and I love doing. We love these people. And it's like, that's what we want to do. And so, like, even on my weight loss and business side, I could see wanting to somehow figure out a way that it's like, if it's this team that I have that's been with me for so long, I'd love to do something like that. I don't have I feel like I'm gonna make plenty of money for Corinne, Chris, my whole family to do fine for the rest of our lives. I don't need a big ass exit package.
Mm,
I would love to make sure that the legacy continued and it was in the hands of the right people who would love it as much as I loved it.
that's definitely legacy.
Yes.
That's like we have this, like, responsibility not to fail humanity. Like, it is in us. It's this almost seriousness of, like, we've gotta bring this into the world. Like, we've got to show this world, and you can't put it out. I have
That is the
tried.
truth.
You cannot put it out. It's so I'm like, why do I do what I do? I'm with you and Chris. I love my work. If I've ever dreaded a day at work, I quit doing whatever that thing was, and I go just do something else. But I love it so much, and it's like I can't find satisfaction in anything else the way that I do with what we can do for lives and impacting. And it just well, you know that we spend
Well,
enough
it's
time
fabulous.
talking
I
about
mean,
this.
it's like I don't love every day of my job. There's some days I'm just like, "Really? This is what we gotta do today?" But, I mean, I love it so much. I never could turn my back on it.
Mm,
Like, I'm not gonna ding dong ditch my work. I'm not gonna I tell my people all the time, somebody like, now that we have 2 businesses for the, like, weight loss and business, it's like there is somebody sitting around who desperately either wants to change their health or they desperately want to change their wealth, and they don't know how, and they need us. And it is our job to show up for them every day. It is not our job to have a pity party because we don't feel like it. It's like, I don't care if you don't feel like it today, go get your job done. And I do that every day. And like most days, though, like once I start working, I'm in it. Like, I mean, I do get into my work. I'm like you. It's like, and like, put me on a coaching call. I can show up for a coaching call at any moment and just within a second, I am in my zone. I do love the work. And that's why I think, like, for me, it's more about this legacy that we're creating over here. I want to, like, I don't know if I'll change the whole world, but whatever part of the world I get to influence, I definitely want them to change.
yeah, it's that impact. It's
Yeah.
so satisfying. One question. This is it. I promise. I keep
Okay.
saying I have two left, but The last one, I've made this up and I'm like, is this going to be the signature question for all of the interviews? If you were to write a statement to go into a time capsule to be found by a family member 3 generations from now, what would you want them to know about your mission and legacy, such as she was the one who did or believed?
It would probably be like poverty stops here. I mean, we have just got generations of broke ass people in my family. My great grandmother, she grew up with a dirt floor in the coal mines of Kentucky, like had nothing. She became a hairdresser. And I just remember she was in the Depression era and saved everything, everything. I remember just as a kid eating homemade applesauce out of baby food jars because when we were all kids, she saved every jar because glass was valuable. And her house was packed to the gills with crap, but so much poverty in my family. I hope that no one in my future, like whatever we do, that they ever have to struggle like my mother, my brother, my ancestors did. So hopefully I set them up. I hope they learn work ethic though. I don't want to leave them so much stuff that they don't know how to work. I want them to appreciate working hard so that they can keep that going for the next generation. I always cry because, like, God, I thought, I was like, "That's gonna be easy. I'm gonna get through this one without crying." And then on the very last question, boo hoo.
So, is it a good question to ask on everyone?
It's
Because
a
this
wonderful
is our show.
question. Yes, it's a wonderful question. It gets to the heart of why you do what you do, you know?
Thank you for the time, for the extra time, for the transparency, the information that's so helpful, and the desire to keep helping, man. It's like we see so many entrepreneurs who get tired and who burn out, and this is what keeps us fired up. So thank you for staying in the game, for not throwing in the towel, for eating ass. I didn't tell you you could have said cuss words on here.
Yeah, I really tried to I think I let a couple slip. I was trying to I didn't ask, so I better watch myself. Who knows what we're gonna be doing?
Far away from down here in Louisiana. So, like, just so many commonalities, that I've been watching you. I've been a peer with you, and I've also worked with you in business in, the weight loss side, been a part of your business. And I appreciate so much of how you show up every day for thousands of people that you're impacting the lives. And just wanted you to be the first guest
Alright.
on
Well,
this.
thank you for having me, ma'am.
So, Corinne, do you want to tell them, like, just where can they find you? What do you do? What are you doing now? Just so quickie. We're going to put all the links regardless.
Yeah.
But if there's anything I didn't ask you or that you want to mention that you want to use this space for, you're welcome to do that.
Yeah, if you want like, we talked a lot about weight loss, the weight loss side. If you want to take I have a free course. It's the easiest thing. It's 3 little videos that teach you some common sense when it comes to losing weight. You can go to nobsfreecourse.com. I also have a business membership. It's nobsbusinesswomen.com. You can find out information there, but, just check me out. If you liked what I had to say, take a look, especially on that weight loss side. If you're done with a lot of BS diets, I promise you I won't put you on one.
Yeah. Yeah. You used to have the podcast, right?
I have my podcast, Losing 100 Pounds with Corinne. Yeah, we're on, I don't know, I think we're coming up around somewhere in the 400th episode is pretty soon. It's like we're inching on up there.
We didn't even talk about any of your personal weight loss and journey. I just wanted to really get into the meat of this, like entrepreneur, solopreneur, company, business, legacy. I love it. Thank you. I appreciate you.
You're welcome. All
Hey
right, thank you.
guys.